get into it. Pre-market plan for tomorrow, and then a little bit of the session recap that happened today. So right off the pre-market plan here, Q set up, not the best price action, but Q set up. Today is one of those examples on why I always say I'm not really a fan of gap fill plays, right? A lot of these names, higher time frame is bearish, but the intraday, I'm starting off on the session, a little bullish, right? At least to start off the market open, and then we ended up just pulling back and just having terrible price action throughout the day. But this was the previous day close. So we ended up just popping up, filling the gap. We opened down here, which means we gapped down. So we spent the morning filling the gap, right? Pull back short off of 587.85. That was a dot, right? Pull back short off of that. So that's pretty much what caused a lot of our names to rally up on the upside this morning, is because the overall market had a gap to fill, right? Statistically speaking, within those first 48 hours, those gaps are going to look to be filled. The market wants to restore balance, fill those orders, and so on. So not the best price action. Right, you never want to fall into the trap of hindsight. I took an A+ shot on Tesla and kind of called it a day. This set up around 8:30. I did sit around a little bit after 8 just looking, but even when we started to pull back here, I did not like the price action here on Qs. So I ended up just skipping the trade. Right, plan your trade your plan. It ended up playing out beautifully. Pull back short off of 587. I ended up just making a business decision. I didn't like it. I didn't like the momentum at that time as well, but it planned out, right? Beautiful. So going into tomorrow, what I'm really looking for here on the Qs is a short under 581, which is also under the previous day low. That is a high probability setup. Depends on the price action. We are outside of the channel now. We are outside of the range. I think a lot of us came into today hoping or thinking the price action would be a little bit cleaner, but it wasn't. Today was terrible price action. So we're just looking for this. We're still making our lower lows. We're in a downtrend. So break and retest under 581.10. That is going to be the main focus going into tomorrow on Qs. If we sit in here inside bar day, we can kind of expect some sideways action across the board. SPY basically just did what Qs did. This was the previous day close, so you can see we ended up pulling back, right? Filled the gap, got back under this. We ended up holding 652.20, as you can see here. Turn this key level into support. It's a weekly level. Turn that into support, so not surprised there. What I would like to see is a break and retest under it. It looked pretty promising this morning. Let's go here on the 1 minute. And this is why we don't chase. This is why we sat on our hands. You guys know me. I have a hard rule. I would never be in a trade, especially on the indices like SPY and Qs when red folder news comes out. We had red folder news at 6:45, and I really wanted this. This was off the pre-market plan, right? A break and retest or a pop and fade off of 652.20. It was a great confluence. We're under the previous day low. It's a range break, and it's off a weekly level. But we ended up skipping the trade, and it was a great skip, right? I just wanted news to come out to see what would happen. And, this may cause some FOMO, right? You get that little break, you get that retest, you see that strong price action, you get the break through the lower day, you feel like you missed it. But lo and behold, this is just what you call a morning squeeze, right? It was a morning squeeze. A lot of bears got trapped here. What did that do? That fueled that move higher once we reclaimed this key level. So good way to be patient here coming into today on SPY. I really, really wanted this, but it's still in play for tomorrow. It's still in play for tomorrow. So what am I looking for tomorrow on SPY? Break and retest under 652.20. That's the only thing I'm looking for here. We can gravitate towards 640, 650 here if that sets up. We're in a downtrend. We're bearish bias on the name. Of course, tomorrow, if we hold 652.20, we're still in that channel on the higher time frame. Keep that in mind. So if that does occur, I'm pretty much just hands off here because now we're just going to be sitting in between 661 and 652. So the key line in the sand for me tomorrow is going to be this break and retest here under 652.20. Tesla, I'm looking for this. Today, I like the trade. Plan your trade your plan. Ended up taking the reclaim entry to the downside, looking for that continuation. It was really the same thing I was looking for yesterday. Just like this, we get above, you trap some buyers up here, and then we ended up just getting that sell-off. So I was looking for the same thing here today. If you zoom out on the weekly and on the daily, we're bearish bias on Tesla. Tesla's trending to the downside. So this was an A+ shot. I really love this trade. Took a very small loss, like a 4 to 5% loss, because I ended up scaling out a third of my position on that push into the low here. But nevertheless, what got me really intrigued in this was, we broke above it, broke above. Sorry, give me 1 sec. We broke above, we retested, made a new high, and we just got this instant flush candle. So what am I thinking in my head? Okay, cool. This is exactly what I'm looking for. Because what happens when we break above a key level and fail? What does that do? It fuels that move back to the downside. So I was just looking at this as, okay, cool. This is a great little bull trap. Everyone's trying to long Tesla when it's in a downtrend. Hopefully these retail traders can get trapped up here. And what is that going to do? Fuel that move. Sorry, give me 1 sec. What is that going to do? Fuel that move lower. That's exactly what I was looking for here. Ended up stopping out right on the break back above 32.80, and I called it a day. One and done. Less is more. So same thing going into tomorrow that I'm looking for here on Tesla. You can see today we really didn't do much, right? This was also another name that ended up gapping down. Pretty much an inside bar day on Tesla. We're playing off a higher time frame key level, of course. The previous day close was right here, so we ended up just pulling back, filling that gap as well with the overall market. But you can see the daily candle closed pretty much right at 382.80 again. So inside bar day here on Tesla, kind of the same open as yesterday actually. When you look at yesterday and then you look at today, almost identical, which is crazy. Look at that, almost identical. So same thing here on Tesla going into tomorrow. The only thing I'm looking for here is a break and retest under 382.80 or a pullback short off of this key level. If we reclaim 382.80, now we're back in the channel on the weekly time frame. Under 382.80, we're bearish bias. So I'm just looking for a break and retest under this. This name can move. We know that Tesla, when it trends hard. Unfortunately, this was on our close watch list on Friday, and we missed it. Well, we didn't miss it. We just didn't get it, right? It happened during the pre-market. You got that break, you got that pullback, you got that retest, and what did that do? On the intraday, we got that pullback all the way back down to 367.35 here on Tesla. So we know this is a key level, a key area of supply here, right? There's no doubt about that. When you look at it here, you see every time we push up, sellers do end up showing their hand. There's no doubt about that. So even if you are looking to go long, I'll be very careful going long into 382.80 here on Tesla. As for me, I'm bearish bias on this name. So tomorrow, the only thing I'm looking for really is a pullback long. I'm sorry, pullback short if we open under, or a break and retest under 382.80 here on Tesla. Now, if we want to stay strong, remember the break and retest happens on every single time frame. Every single time frame. We still need to retest this. We still need to retest this. So if we stay strong, I don't really care to go long over the previous day high here. I would just wait for a reaction here off of 394.05. Just got to be patient, right? There's a lot of built up liquidity setting up here. We've been flirting with this level 4 days in a row now. Yeah, 4 days in a row. When you look at this, 4 days in a row, we've been sitting up here at 382.80. So that's a key level. I would definitely keep an eye out on it, but I'm just looking for a break and retest under that, right? We can look for the previous day low to be our first target, and then of course, right, that higher time frame key level, which is going to be our weekly level, 367.35 here on Tesla. NVIDIA, setting up. Yesterday, the close watch here was a pullback short off of 178.05. That ended up setting up beautifully on the dot here. Just terrible price action. So could not take that trade. And today, no difference. You can see, ended up getting that pullback short off of 178.05, and you got that beautiful flush to the downside. Plan your trade, trade your plan. Now, what I'm probably most likely going to do is I'm just going to treat 178 and 174 as a no trade zone. The way I'm looking at this, if you zoom out on the video, on the weekly and on the daily, we are in a downtrend. Now, something to keep in mind here, we still are above 170. So on the weekly time frame, we're still in a channel. Got to keep that in mind. On the higher time frame, we're not bearish bias yet, but we are leaning more so towards the downside because, well, we are in a downtrend on NVIDIA. Now, the way that I'm looking at this, our key level has been respected very well. Very well. 3 days in a row now. If you go to Friday, you see you got a perfect break and retest under this, under 174.50. So the way I'm looking at this right now is a daily double bottom so far this week. Looking for a break and retest under that. I love the confluence here. Break and retest under that, under the previous day low. That is a solid shot to the downside. You can see, we're making our lower lows here. Definitely making our lower lows. We're in a downtrend. Keep that in mind. The trend is your friend and the dip is your best friend. So the only thing I'm looking for is a short under 174.50. If we have another inside bar day here, I'm hands off. If we get a pop and fade off of that, it really depends on the price action. If we get a very strong rejection, like you see here, you got that strong rejection and that flush to the downside, then I like it. But honestly, I'm kind of just hands off. I'd rather just wait for the higher probability shot, which is going to be a break and retest under 174.50. AMD, guys, I've been telling you, this name has relative strength compared to Qs and SPY. It definitely does. If you look at last week's weekly candle, and compared to Qs, you will see what I mean. So I've been treating this as a no trade zone. The last 2 days, I've been looking for a pullback long off of 203. And you can see the buyers have been holding up here. The buyers have definitely been holding up. This thing is setting up. It's definitely setting up. So what am I looking for? Right, I'm looking for a pullback long off of 203. Why? We're in a channel. What do I teach? I want to see this range turn into support or resistance. I want to see the top of this range turn into support. If so, we can see a push up in a 209. All we got to do is look at yesterday. We got to look at the 11th. And then we got to look at the 26th of February. History repeats itself. So if we can turn this into support, this thing can push to the upside. Today, right, not too surprised because when you get rid of all the key levels, right, it was really just an inside bar day, as you can see. So technically, we didn't move higher or lower, but we are defending this 203. So if you go here on the weekly, AMD, another name to keep in mind. We're in a channel. We're still in a range here. But this thing is setting up, man. This is starting to become a hammer stick candle on the weekly time frame. We're breaking a trend line on the weekly time frame. As I always say, an A+ shot doesn't look like an A+ shot before you take the trade. But if you know what you're looking at and what you're looking for, this is a very big RR. A lot of these names have been doing nothing. This is all AMD has been doing, nothing. But when you look left, right, this name can move. When you look left and this name wants to move, it can move. These are some big weekly candles here. So, when you compare the previous price action that we've had compared to what we're dealing with now, it's very, very slow. But this thing it's setting up. There's some built up liquidity here on this trend line. We're starting to turn. 203 into support here, as you can see on the weekly time frame. The higher the time frame, the stronger the level. So I'm looking for this. I'm definitely looking for this. It's going to be my main focus. It's been my main focus so far this week. I was looking at it yesterday. I was looking at it today. We're getting there slowly but surely. We're trying to turn this 203 back into support. If so, we can definitely see 225 here. Our next level of liquidity would definitely be this 209.90. So keep an eye out on AMD. I'm definitely watching this. I noticed that today, the market was pulling back a little bit, but AMD wasn't. So we'll see what sets up. But pull back long off of 203 is a solid shot. As for the side names, Amazon, I'm looking at this. Sitting in the middle of our no trade zone, low probability environment, so why take a trade? Not looking for that. Now, actually, if you go here on the daily, you got to be a little careful here, because when you look at, actually, let's go on the weekly, the higher the time frame. Sorry, let's go on the weekly. When you look at AMD and you only look at the weekly, whole lot of nothing going on. Whole lot of nothing. So you got to be cautious. We're not trending. These are weekly candles. So this is all it's been doing. It's all it's been doing. There's nothing going on here. So be very, very careful. That's definitely what I want to tell you. Now, sitting in the middle of our no trade zone, we've been ranging in between 212 and 280. I want to see the bottom of this range turn into resistance the same way the top of this range turn into support. Very simple here. So I will be watching this tomorrow. I love the confluence here. You can see the top of the range yesterday got respected perfectly. We pushed up into 212. Seller stepped in, pushed it down. If we can get under 206, it's a range break. It's a clear shot to 205. And we're also under the previous day low. That's a great confluence. That's a great confluence. Your job is not to be correct or incorrect. It's to take your shots, accept the risk, and embrace the risk. So this is a big RR. We're just trying to catch the downtrend. On the weekly time frame, we are bearish. That is a great shot. I'm looking for that. Break and retest under 206.40. Also under the previous day low, which means price is likely to continue lower. We got a clear shot. Nothing in its way. So give me one sec. We got a clear shot. Nothing in its way. Down into 202.50 here. So that's something you can definitely keep an eye out for on Amazon. As for Apple, right? Today, what did it do? It turned the top of this range into support. Look at that. Right? Got the break. We based a little bit, turned into support, got that push higher. But we are in a downtrend on Apple, and this is also another name on the higher time frame where we're still stuck in a channel. You can see clear as daylight. We're in a downtrend on Apple, right? The trend is your friend, the dip is your best friend. 255, we still do need to retest this. So the last 2 days, we pulled back, seller stepped in. No surprise there. All you got to do is look here. Sellers have stepped in these 2 days. Now, we did break this. We still need to retest this on the intraday. So that's something to keep in mind here. Definitely something to keep in mind. Other than that, I'm bearish bias on this name until or if we reclaim 255.55, which is a weekly level. Break a structure, which means we're no longer in a channel on the higher time frame. It's going to be under 244 here on Apple. So tread carefully. We're not out to clear yet. We are not out to clear yet. When you zoom out on a lot of these names and the tech names, a lot of them are still in these ranges in channels on the higher time frame. So keep that in mind. We are not out to clear yet. So what am I looking for here on Apple? Like I said, on the weekly outlook, break and retest under 248.30 or a pop and fade, the retest here off of 255.55. Other than that, I'm pretty much hands off on this name. We know how Apple moves on the underlying, so you want to be conservative and take the highest probability shot on that name. Microsoft, golly, this thing set up on the dot right off the pre-market plan. Break and retest under 381. Beautiful. So I expect this name to sit sideways a little bit. We are in a downtrend. You can clearly see we're bearish bias here. The next higher time frame key level is going to be this 367.25. The reason this was such a good shot coming into today, that's what, 4 times? 381. We held this as support. Yesterday, it was also the previous day low. So this was a great confluence. You're getting a break and retest under a weekly level, and you're also under the previous day low. And look what happens. So this is what we're waiting for. Honestly, this is a great example of, what we've been missing. Feels weird to see it, but it's really been this. Like the price action. Look how clean that is. Just beautiful price action. Nice trend to the downside. You get the drops in your favor. That has not really been the case. This little area, that's just what we've been seeing across the board on the overall market. Today's a great example of that. So a little exhausted here on Microsoft. I'm not really expecting much tomorrow. Remember, the break and retest happens on every single time frame. So today we got the big breakout candle on the daily. Got the big breakout candle. So what do you need here on Microsoft? What you can look for the next days is to pull back short off of 381. You still need the break and retest on the weekly and on the daily here. So pull back short off of that is very valid. I don't trade off of PDLs and PDHs, so you can definitely look for a short for the continuation to the downside here on Microsoft. The next key level here is 367.25. It had a very nice trendy day. You can see out of all names, this was the cleanest price action name out of the entire day, which was Microsoft. So nice trendy day, typically followed up by what? Consolidation. So I'm not expecting too much on Microsoft. It's not really one of my main focuses anyway, but it's a great side watch name. So this is something you can keep an eye out on for Microsoft. Palantir. So it was just a peak and fell. It was a peak and fell. It was a nice little bull trap. It looked good. Great yesterday if you caught it for, you know, a quick intraday payday, but it was a peak and fail. Coming into today, what I was looking for on Microsoft to know that this move yesterday was valid was to retest. Remember, guys, we trade the break and retest. The retest equals confirmation. The retest equals the move was real. We want to see this pullback and buyers step up and defend this to push this higher. That never happened. So this was just a good old peak and fell. That's all it did. So now we're just back in the middle of this channel, in this range, no trade zone. So if you're looking for Palantir, you would definitely look for break and retest over 156.75 or a break and retest here over 161.75. If you're looking for shorts, of course, outside of the range. Outside of that, you're sitting in a range, no trade zone, low probability environment. Why are you taking a trade in there? And Intel, I don't really trade this name, but I am looking at this for a range break. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days now. 6 days, we have held 43.60 as a very strong support level. You can see that on the dot on the daily time frame. We have held this as a very strong support. Just really looking for a range break. Break and retest under this. You can definitely see 42.15 here. Fairly simple on Intel. So hope this helps. Just be patient. Be patient. We're not there yet. You know, Qs did break outside of the range. It did break outside of the range. We got that break and retest under 587.85, but not the cleanest price action. A lot of our tech names are still in a range. NVIDIA has, like, look at this. Like, who knows, right? We won't know until we know. Maybe it was a peak and fell on the daily. Maybe we do reclaim the bottom of the range here, 587.85 on Qs, and we see a push back up to the top of the range. That's what I mean when, you know, I say you got to learn how to think in probabilities. So who knows? We won't know until we know, but it's not our job to know. It's our job to react. But what I do know is we are in a downtrend, and I'm bearish bias on Qs and SPY. So main focus tomorrow is really going to be, you know, what do we do here on Qs and SPY? If we can get under 581, we could definitely see some more downside. If we reclaim and hold 587, right, we're just getting back into this channel on the higher time frame. So hope this helps. I will see you guys in the morning.